Here is a possible debate between a conservative and a progressive on international trade with nations that do not share our values. Moderator, good evening and welcome to tonight's debate on international trade with nations that do not share our values. On my left, we have a conservative, and on my right, we have a progressive. Let's start with opening statements. Conservative, you may begin. Conservative, thank you. I believe that international trade is essential for the growth and prosperity of our nation. While it is important to consider the values of other nations, we must also prioritize our own economic interests. If we only trade with nations that share our values, we limit our opportunities for growth and risk falling behind in the global economy. Progressive, I disagree. International trade should not come at the expense of our values. By trading with nations that do not share our values, we are indirectly supporting their actions and sending a message that their behavior is acceptable. We should use our economic power to promote positive change and encourage other nations to adopt values that align with ours. Moderator, thank you. Let's move on to the first question. How do you propose we balance our economic interests with our values when it comes to international trade? Conservative, I believe that we can balance our economic interests with our values by engaging in fair and ethical trade practices. This means ensuring that the products we import are produced in safe and humane conditions and that workers are treated fairly. We can also use trade agreements to promote positive change in other nations by including provisions that require them to improve their labor and environmental standards. Progressive, while I agree that fair and ethical trade practices are important, I believe that we need to go further. We should use our economic power to pressure other nations to adopt values that align with ours. This means refusing to trade with nations that engage in human rights abuses or have poor environmental records. By taking a strong stance on these issues, we can use our economic power to promote positive change. Moderator, thank you. Let's move on to the next question. How do you propose we address concerns about job loss and economic disruption caused by international trade? Conservative, international trade can create new opportunities for growth and job creation, but it can also cause disruption in certain industries. To address these concerns, we need to invest in education and training programs to help workers transition to new jobs in growing industries. We also need to provide support for businesses that are negatively impacted by international trade, so they can adapt and remain competitive. Progressive, while education and training programs are important, I believe that we also need to take a more proactive approach to protecting workers and communities impacted by international trade. This means implementing policies such as stronger labor protections and wage standards to ensure that workers are not left behind in the global economy. We also need to invest in infrastructure and community development programs to support communities impacted by job loss. Moderator, thank you both for your responses. That concludes tonight's debate on international trade with nations that do not share our values.